Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Face to Face. I'm right here, Rafael Chacin Montillo, known as El Capitán Rafucho. And right now, we have an extraordinary man right here on this episode of Face to Face because this is an interview web series that we're talking about with the most important sports content creators, athletes, musicians, artists, influencers, and people with good stories right here. So we can talk about the hot topics on sports, entertainment, and of course, stories that we made us as a human being. So right now, I'm going to introduce this man right here because, well, last episode I had the opportunity to talk with Dad the Sports Guy. But right now we're heading again to the Boston City, which is in Massachusetts. But this man has been like amazing, and of course, he's one of my greatest inspirations to be here on TikTok, and of course, as part of the content creators. And of course, he had a lot of sport knowledge, and he's been doing so far so great. And his TikTok page has made like 1 million views right here. And I'm gonna tell you, this man is amazing. He's hilarious, and of course, he mixes it up with sports and pop culture, just like Devin. And of course, this man had no introduction right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we give you the one and only sports director Nick, as known as Nick LeBlanc.
Oh, I think you're muted. I
Yeah,
think
my bad there,
okay.
man. How you doing?
Sorry. All right. So how's it going?
Not too bad, man. Yourself?
I'm very good right now. So let's see what I got over here. But first, we're gonna talk about the New England Patriots because I just saw the news right here. They're signing offensive lineman Derek Williams because they're making a move to bolster the offensive line depth because the center Darius Willman had signed the New England Patriots on Friday. His agency Eli Loyalty has sports confirmed it because right now he's from the Kansas City Chiefs, which is no because they just won the Super Bowl in 2020 against San Francisco Niners, but they just lost against Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2021. But right now, it's just building out the defense right here, the offline for the New England Patriots, and of course, he was just signing for the Kansas City Chiefs last year as an undrafted free agent outside of the Mississippi State. David Andrews is currently over the center on New England's roster, and Williams will battle on that spot on that team with training goes underway on the next month, which is July 27th. So, can you tell me about any thoughts about Derek Williams going to Kansas City to the New England Patriots?
I mean, obviously, it's a different culture. I mean, you have the different coaching styles of Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, and you can't really have too much offensive depth, really. That's something that the Patriots have really lacked, and really, I think the last couple seasons, not enough depth on really the offensive line. Um, you know, they have guys that need to play guard, they got guys to play left tackle. David Andrews, he's your everyday center. You can always rely on him. But what are you
Okay.
going to do at the guard and tackle position? So that's where you need to have some offensive line depth. So it's a really good depth move for the Patriots because injuries always happen, especially in the offensive line. So a little bit extra depth isn't really bad there for the Patriots, but it all depends on how is he going to fit in the system. Can he learn the offense the right way? If he has to protect Mac Jones's blind side, can he do that? So it's a lot of moving pieces though, but I think he will succeed here in New England too. He had a good year last year with Kansas City. Andy Reid, one of the top coaches in NFL history. And then you go to probably the greatest head coach in NFL history, and Bill Belichick. So really not too much difference there. But obviously a different culture, different offense. Got to learn. Is a bunch of different moving pieces, and especially this year with New England, where Josh McDaniels now out in Las Vegas. You brought back in Joe Judge, God help Mac Jones. And Matt Patricia's going to be doing some offensive stuff. Bill Belichick, it's a bit of a mess for the Patriots, but the fact that they have some offensive line depth there is probably a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now, let's talk about the dynasty between Bill Belichick and, of course, Tom Brady over to two last decade, which is 2000 and 2010. Because after Pete Carroll was fired on the mid before the ending of 1999, because right now 2000 from 2000 to 2019, there was 20 years of the dynasty of Tom Brady and of course Bill Belichick, and they of course they just won like and they just won six Super Bowls, which is 2001, 2003, 2004, 2014, 2016, and 2018, which they won against Los Angeles Rams right here. But just like a big dynasty for everybody else. So any thoughts about the dynasty between Bill Belichick and of course Tom Brady? Because well, I just saw you on one of the TikToks because I just saw one of the TikToks that blow us the others right here because the face-off between Tom Brady, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, versus Bill Belichick, which is from the New England Patriots. So, any thoughts about the dynasty between Brady and Belichick for the Patriots who overcame one of the popular teams of the NFL during 2 decades?
I think over the course of those 2 decades, you can really make the argument of, who made each other's career. Was it Tom Brady who made Bill Belichick? Was it Bill Belichick who made Tom Brady? Really, I think you can look at it both ways. Just think about it. No one would have taken really Tom Brady if you think about it. Brady would have probably been an undrafted free agent going from team to team to team in 2000 if Belichick didn't waste the 199th overall pick on him and keep him on the roster as a fourth string quarterback. And then again, you can also look at it too. If once Bledsoe is healthy, Belichick could easily went back to Bledsoe over Brady. And who knows how that would have changed. So you didn't say a little bit that Belichick gave Brady the opportunity to be the greatest that he was. But Tom Brady, though, on the other hand, he also made Bill Belichick too, because Brady, he was able to bail out the defense. The defense having a bad game, he could help out the defense by just throwing up a touchdown, right away to answer or set them up in field goal position. So really, they worked well together. I think towards the end a little bit, I think you saw a little bit of animosity where, Belichick wasn't really doing much on the offensive side of the football, focusing more on defense. Brady having to play with a lot of undersized receivers as he did throughout most of his career in New England. So I think towards the end, you see a little bit of that animosity. But in terms of the two together, look, they're always going to be linked together. And what they did over the course of 19, 20 years, you're never going to see that in the NFL ever again. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, maybe they have a chance at it, maybe, but that's probably the closest anyone's ever going to get again. Anything you see what Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have done over the course of the last 20 years, or their 20 years together, we're never going to see it again in NFL history. Never.
Never, because between over those 20 years of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick became like an unbreakable relationship right here, because over that 2 decades we just saw the New England Patriots winning against Carolina Panthers, winning against Los Angeles Rams, winning against Atlanta Hawks, which is one of the most incredible games right here, because
I remember again, that it's something you're never going to see again.
Yes. Yeah, because well, I just thought that over 2 decades right here, because it became the dynasty of the New England Patriots. And I just remember that I just saw you then, and I mentioned it later because you just made a video about the face-off between Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick, which is the master versus the teacher, or the master versus the student right here. And it just like blew me away. It just blew me away how they became, because it constantly they have like a game between New England Patriots versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which they had Tom Brady on the side, and of course there's Mac Jones on the side right here. But it just like it feels like the Patriots had made history over the 2 decades, and they had still more dynasty because of Bill Belichick, because it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable. But right now, let's get a focus about it. So the last time that they went to the Super Bowl, it was against Los Angeles Rams, which is phenomenal. But right now, let's talk about the season right here. What you can improve about the defense, the offline, because after coming into one, send him out to the Carolina Panthers. Do you see it's going to improve the defense and the offline? What should we gotta do about the 2022 season of the New England Patriots? Is going to improve the offense, the offline, the wide receivers line?
I mean, I think you really look at the Patriots team, and it was kind of more of the same of what we got last year. You know, you just got guys like Judon, J.C. Jackson. Obviously, he signed with the Los Angeles Chargers in the offseason. So a lot of guys have to step up on the defensive side of the football, like a Kyle Duggar. You know, maybe Devin Tony might have to take a more bigger role in the defense again, even though he's getting up there in his career. Really, if you look at this Patriots team more or less, they're kind of really the same team as last year if you think about it. You know, you still got the same receiving core on Hunter Henry, John Smith, who I expect to make a bigger impact this year. Still got Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. So the offense and the defense they kind of line up pretty good. So I'm not saying that the Patriots aren't going to have a bad season, but they really got to try to improve on what they and how they ended last season, losing 4 of your last 5 games, getting absolutely torched and laughed off the field in Buffalo in the playoff game and the wild card game. So really, I look at this Patriots team on paper. They're good enough to compete in the AFC, but I don't think they're good enough to really clinch maybe a wild card spot like they did last year, because you had teams like the Colts, choked away a playoff spot. You had a team like the Ravens who faded. The Browns, they couldn't live up to the expectations last year. Steelers, they just barely squeaked in. So, you're not really going to have that luxury. I think the Bengals have improved. I think the Browns are going to improve depending on what happens with the Deshaun Watson situation. The Ravens are healthy. The Colts got better at quarterback and Matt Ryan. So the AFC, it's really gone more competitive for the Patriots. It's really going to be harder for the Patriots to try to clinch a playoff spot this year in year number 2 of Mac Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now they had to forcing each other about how competitive was that. Because right now I just saw all these teams at the NFL, and it became like very, very, very grateful for anything else. So just look at the teams right here from the Los Angeles Rams, the Seahawks, the Commanders. Also, they had there's Minnesota Vikings, the Detroit Lions, also the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cowboys was there. But I think they're gonna to worry about the offensive at the online to improve about this season right here, because they just lost in the wild card playoffs. But I just see like a little improvement right here, because without any juries right here. But anyway, this is gonna be like very competitive, because they had to be careful about Kansas City Royals, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, because it's all about it's all about competition, and of course there's Buffalo Bills, which is another team to worry about it, to the quarterback, which is Josh Allen. So it means like very competitive right here, because there's a lot of teams that have to go to the face of for the Super Bowl, for the playoffs, but it's all about the team. It's all about how we can care about the offensive, the offline, and anything else. So let's see what happens with the New England Patriots can improve about this season. If they look good, they're very good. But if they don't, well, they have to improve more. Let's see what's mistake is about the 2021 season. So I'm gonna to move on, because right now we're just talking about the New England Patriots. Now, right now we're just moving on to the Boston Red Sox, which is the baseball. And I remember, because one of the biggest rivalries ever in the sports history was none other the New York Yankees versus Boston Red Sox. And I remember that I was watching, it was like, because I was 2004 when I was 11 years old. And that was really amazing. That was really amazing, because they have so many rivals right here, but no one can beat about New York Yankees versus Boston Red Sox. And 2004 was very, very incredible for the Boston Red Sox right here, because they just lost in the previous season against the New York Yankees. But then it's all about the payback, but they just had Terry Francona, also Kurt Schilling as its starting pitcher, and they just made like an amazing journey, an amazing season. And of course, they had David Ortiz, which is the big puppy, and they just won the World Series against St. Louis Cardinals. And it's just like amazing. And the MVP was Manny Ramirez, and the people were crowned. The people went crazy, because right now it's just like they just have like a good feel moment. It's just like a historical moment for the Boston Red Sox in 2004. and they just broke the curse to the Bambino since 1918. But it just like they just snapped it. They just earned the World Series like nobody thought. Because if we turn back, because after the curse right here, because there's Chicago Cubs, which is they just won the World Series in 2016, and they just broke the curse of the GOAT. So can you tell me about any thoughts about the historical and glorious season at the 2004 Boston Red Sox when they became the World Series champions?
Oh, look, it's an incredible year. You always have to think back to how Aaron Boone broke Red Sox fans' hearts in 2003 in Game 7 of the ALCS. And then,
Yeah.
Red Sox running some decent momentum into the ALCS after sweeping the Angels. And, really just when they went down 0-3 after Game 3 and after just getting thumped 19-8, not much hope was for the Red Sox. And then you have, Kevin Millar, saying, hey, don't let us win tonight. Don't let us win tonight. And then, it really is just play, a sound aim. Dave Roberts stealing second base. That's stealing second base in the ninth inning of that game. That really changed the whole complexion, not only of Game 4, but really the entire series, if you think about it. Because, if Dave Roberts did not steal second base, the Yankees would have went on to sweep the Red Sox and probably would have went on to either beat the Cardinals or the Astros in the 2004 World Series regardless. But Dave Roberts stealing that bag at second base, though, it changed that whole complexion because now it started putting a bit of a seed of confidence for the Red Sox saying, hey, we can compete with these guys. We can win. We just got to play our game. Just take smart pitches. And that's exactly what they did. They beat the Yankees in 4 straight. And, and in playoffs, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, or even basketball, once you get a little momentum going, it's hard to stop. And the Red Sox, they took the momentum from Game 4 and rode it all the way for 7 more victories on the way to their first World Series title in 86 years.
Mm, yeah, because coincidentally, because right now 2003 was the year that New England Patriots won against Carolina Panthers, and of course there was Boston Red Sox winning the World Series against St. Louis Cardinals. So that means 2004 was the biggest year for the Boston sports because not only they had Patriots winning the Super Bowl with Bill Belichick and of course Tom Brady, but also they got Boston Red Sox with Terry Francona, Mena Ramirez, David Ortiz, and of course Kurt Schilling. And of course, we're just talking about the rivalries, which is the Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees. So, can you explain about the rivalry, the historical rivalry between New York Yankees versus Boston Red Sox? Because it's just like an enormous battle, a rivalry that it came like a trend for decades.
Yeah, it's always going to be one of those historic rivalries. Whenever you see Red Sox Yankees, you always want to tune in, whether it's a nationally televised game or even if it's
Mhm.
just on your local market too. You see Red Sox Yankees, you immediately think of all the history back. Obviously the rivalry isn't what it used to be. The Red Sox have had some down years, the Yankees have had some down years. So there's kind of that bit of a lull. But then, we've seen these teams have, 5 playoff games over the course of the last, 4 or 5 years. That's kind of helped spark the rivalry. And these two teams are always competitive against one another. They always seem to either split the season series or one team just barely wins it. Last year, the Red Sox won the first 10 games. The Yankees won the last 9, but the Red Sox ended up getting the last laugh in the wild card game. But these two teams always seem to go back and forth every year, regardless of how the rosters are really constructed. And it's always just a fun matchup to watch, too. Because you just want to think back at the history. Red Sox Yankees, just the whole history behind it all. The Red Sox selling Babe Ruth's rights to the Yankees. The Yankees at one point owning Fenway Park and the Red Sox renting it out. And really just all the constant times the Yankees have broken the Red Sox hearts, and the Red Sox were able to flip that in 2004, and kind of flipped it really in a little bit since, because in the last couple postseason meetings, the Red Sox have gone the last lap. The Red Sox beat the Yankees in 4 games in the 2018 ALDS, and they also beat them in the AL wildcard game last season too. So
Mhm.
really, you can tell that the rivalry's kind of picked up a little bit more in recent years. Not so much really in the 2010s, where the Yankees had some seasons where they're kind of like scooting on by, still being competitive. And yeah, the Red Sox are either finishing last in the American League East or finishing at top of the AL East. So over the course, I say, of maybe from like 2018 onward, the rivalry's heated up a little bit more. but he had that little bit of a lull period between, I say, about maybe 2011 to about 2015, 16, where both teams kind of just middle of the pack, trying to fighting to stay relevant.
Yeah, because I just remember that, well, watching with my father and of course my grandfather Rafael, which is the same name. I just remember all these games between Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees. For me, it's just like the perfect ultimate rivalry in the history of the sports. Because if you look at over the decades right here, if you look at it, see over those games, and of course the face-off between two teams, it's just like a perfect history. It's just like anything can happen because not only it just had both teams that had championship, but also it's just like a robbery, and then of course there face off, and of course there's a lot of players, and of course the fans, which is the most important rivalry in the history of the sports. And we can continue like there's nothing else that perfectly, which is the rivalry between Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees, because it's for me, it's just like the perfect rivalry in baseball. Because when I just learned about the sport rivalries in its history, because if we look at Boston Celtics versus Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Red Sox versus New York Yankees, we can see all these rivalries right here because they just had history. They just made like the perfect example about the rivalries in the history. And of course, I just made that, well, even watching all these displays with my father and my grandfather, those rivalries are never getting older. They're made for the history right here. And for right now, right now, there's gonna be like another team right here because let's just talk about, well, the Green Bay Packers, which is for Aaron Rodgers. So, in my opinion, right here, how the Green Bay Packers should be worried about David Bakhtiari, because right now the defensive tackle David Bakhtiari has been playing for only one game for the franchise since tearing his ACL and practicing on New Year's Eve 2 seasons ago. So he was originally that how the injury rehab process is going for like a few key players on that team, and seems like the progressive how to turn the ACU over last season, and the same things that doesn't apply for Rectari. So he's been not taking about a single practice for the Packers of the offseason. So the Green Bay Packers should be concerned about the David Bakhtiari knee injury. He's one of the best left tackles in the football, so he's been like all prime in his position. Should we worry about it? Yes, because he was keeping like the NFL and the quarterback Aaron Rodgers. His emergency had the bookend and ending a huge part of the Packers return to the left floor, and its tension absence make like that worse. So can you tell any thoughts about should we worry about the Green Bay Packers about David Bakhtiari about the after his injury?
No, I don't think you'd really have to worry too much about David Bakhtiari. I mean, the Patriots have purposely held him out of offseason programs this year for him to just get some extra rest in that knee. ACL injuries are very tough injuries to come back from. You had to, it involves a lot of procedures to clean out, whatever's left in there from the procedure itself. So, in terms of Dave Bakhtiari, I'm not really too concerned with him or really the construction of the Packers' offensive line. I think the most important thing you have to worry about Green Bay for this year is who's going to fill the Devontae Adams void after the Packers traded him to Las Vegas and he signed that big contract extension with them. I think that's really the biggest question for the Green Bay Packers heading into the 2022 season. Who's going to fill the shoes of Devontae Adams? You got a couple rookie wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers, he's back, so you got some stability there. Who's really going to step up? Is it going to be the tight end Christian Watson? Is it going to be Alan Lazard once he signs his franchise tender? Will Randall Cobb take a more predominant role in the offense again, like he used to when Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams were both here in his early playing days? I think it's really the whole receiving core as a whole for Green Bay that I think the Packer fans have to really be more concerned about. In terms of Dave Bakhtiari, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be ready to go from training camp. He's going to be ready to go from the start of the regular season, protecting Aaron Rodgers' blind side. So in terms of Dave Bakhtiari, I think he is the least amount of the worries for the Packers' concerns. The biggest concern is what are they going to do offensively? Who's going to step up and fill and be the Devontae Adams that Aaron Rodgers needs in order for them to succeed? Look, I think Green Bay is still going to win the NFC North division. Chicago, they're in shambles. Detroit, they're up and coming. They're not there yet. Minnesota, they're hit or miss every year. I think Minnesota's going to have a great year this year. I think they can compete for
Mm-hmm.
that NFC North title. But
Yeah.
really, as a whole, though, with Green Bay, you got a great coach in Matt LaFleur. And as long as you have the two-time reigning NFL MVP in Aaron Rodgers, I think you're going to be perfectly fine. I don't see why you cannot win the NFC North. If you don't win the NFC North, there's absolutely no excuse why you can't get that wild card spot. Because if you look at really the whole landscape of the NFC as conference as a whole, Rafi, who really scares you there? You got the Commanders, who really you don't even know what the heck they're doing. The Giants are bad. The Eagles, they're up and down. The Cowboys, you don't know what you're going to get out of them from time to time. The NFC South, Falcons tanking, Panthers not good. And then you look at the NFC West, the Seahawks are in shambles. The Cardinals probably aren't going to be good this year. And who knows how the 49ers are going to be, because again, they can be up and down too. So in terms of Green Bay making the playoffs, it's a lock for them. Winning the division, you might want to keep your eye on Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just saw, well, all these teams right here from the NFC East. To be fair about the Washington Commanders right here, because they just got Carson Wentz, and it just came bad. Because if you look at the New York Giants, because they got Daniel Jones right here, it's not really good because they had a bad season over and over. And of course, they got teams like Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles to batting each other about the quarterbacks, which is Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott was unbeatable because if you look at the stats right here over rushing yards, passing yards, he's unbeatable. And if we look at the Seattle Seahawks, because they just lost Russell Wilson right here because they just went to the Denver Broncos right here. And the San Francisco Niners had to prove about the defense, and of course there was Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. But if you look at it, see the Carolina Panthers, because I just saw the news. Well, it's about the rumor because they just well needed like another quarterback, which is definitely came out of the hands because they have a quarterback called Sam Darnold. But they just left like what he was doing like a ghost, whatever we see over the season with the New York Jets. And of course, they just recruited Cam Newton to coming back for the Carolina Panthers, but it didn't work. But now they're going to brought Baker Mayfield to turn him back to go to the Carolina Panthers because he is a quarterback, which is the Cleveland Browns. But isn't fit for a top 20 quarterback because if you look at the top 20 quarterbacks right now, we just see like potential, like they have power, they have intensity, they have ability, like a great athlete, just like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford. Also, there's Justin Herbert, Derek Carr. But Baker Mayfield fitting as a top 20, it's not very good because if you look at the stats right here, it's not very good because he needs to improve himself. And for the case of Jalen Hurts, and of course, versus Dak Prescott, the only thing that Jalen Hurts could beat is the offense and the defense of Dallas Cowboys because Philadelphia Eagles just lost against Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the World Cup playoffs, and Dallas Cowboys just lost against San Francisco Niners in the divisional playoffs. So anything can worry about it. So it could be like the battle of the quarterbacks because if you look at Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott will be the winner because Dallas Cowboys went to the first at the conference right here. But the offense at the offline was just like a good improvement. But it just fell off after losing the San Francisco Niners. But if you look at the quarterback of the NFC East, we just look at Dak Prescott because he's unbeatable. And for that reason, they just made it very clear because Carolina Panthers need to improve it here because after the firing of Matt Rule, and they just need like improvement about it, and they just feel like a healing because they just need like because after they doing at the Super Bowl number 50 against Denver Broncos, which Peyton Manning was there and Cam Newton was there, it just felt like they just feel like it was just like up and down. They're just like up and down right here. But right now, that season became like they just need to improve themselves. If they're gonna hire Baker Mayfield at the Carolina Panthers, it's just like this is gonna be like Dubai opinion for me because well, is it gonna fit for being like a top 20 quarterback? Well, if I think so. So, do you have any thoughts about the going to Baker Mayfield to go into the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I think it's be interesting to see what happens with Baker Mayfield. I think all eyes are really on the Browns right now. What's going to happen to Deshaun Watson? Is Watson going to be available week one?
Uh
Is he
huh.
going to be suspended for the entire 2022 NFL season, which could very well be a possibility? So the Browns, I think the Browns have smartly played this a little bit. Yeah, you go out there, Deshaun Watson, knowing there's a chance that he might not be available week one or really throughout the entire season. So then you want to throw Baker Mayfield back out there because frankly, let's be honest, Baker Mayfield does give the Browns their best chance to win, other than Deshaun Watson. Just really, then you look at like Jacoby Brissett or something, who frankly isn't a bad quarterback, but he's more of a career backup third string type of guy. But with Carolina though, would he be a good fit down there? Sure, I think he'll have a little bit more competitive balance down the NFC South. I mean, obviously Tampa Bay, you have Tom Brady, who's probably who knows when his final season is going to be. It could be this year, it could be next year, it could be 80 years from now.
Uh
But it'll kind of bring a little bit of stability there because you have James Winston, who again isn't bad, isn't great either, but he's right in the middle. Put Baker Mayfield in there. Okay, now you got a little bit of a good division developing down there. Between two pretty decent quarterbacks, and then obviously the GOAT there. Then you got the Falcons, who are just going to go with Marcus Mariota for
huh.
whatever reason. But Mayfield down in Carolina, I think it'd be good for him. I think it'd be a good change of scenery for him. Do I see it happening this year? No, because I think Cleveland's probably going to need him this year in order to cover up, whatever's going to happen with the Deshaun Watson situation. But maybe come 2023, yeah, maybe that's probably a good landing spot for him too. Another landing spot to see Mayfield landing in is probably maybe Seattle because I really doubt that they're going to go the Drew Lock experiment more than half a
Mhm.
season. So Seattle's another good place for him. Maybe San Francisco down the line, even though that's probably a pipeline dream. They have Trey Lance. So really, you look at it, it's really mostly Seattle and Carolina that could probably make the most sense for Baker Mayfield. If I had to choose one of the two, I think it'd be a better situation in Seattle. Taller receivers, a better head coach down there. But short term, probably Carolina would make the most sense. Long term, Seattle.
Oh, that's very fair because I just saw on the news right here because the Carolina Panthers won Deshaun Watson, but it came down for Baker Mayfield because it's just like two big decisions. They're gonna send Deshaun Watson, which they had an amazing year with the Houston Texans, or Baker Mayfield, which is a big choice. But I just understood that well, right now they just for the Green Bay Packers, they just lost a great wide receiver, which is Devontae Hammer, which is heading out for the Las Vegas Raiders, which is the perfect fit for him because Devontae Adams and Derek Carr, which partners in the college football, and they're just like a perfect chemistry. But I just saw that well, Devontae Adams had just they just sent offer more money to Devontae Adams stay with the Green Bay Packers, which Devontae Adams said, no, I'm gonna stay with Las Vegas Raiders because there is my partner, there is my college football friend, which is Derek Carr, and we just made like a perfect chemistry too well to make everybody's intimidated and dominated everything this year. So I think this is gonna be like should we be worried about the defense and the offline and of course the future of Green Bay Packers because at least they have well the quarterback Aaron Rodgers, which they have like an amazing season right here. But I guarantee that well it's gonna be like a fun season for the NFL because they had like new faces, there's old faces for different teams right here. So anything can happen. And of course, we're gonna before wrap things out of because your TikTok page has made like a lot of views about so many informations about the sports, mixing up with pop culture, and of course a lot of humor. And of course, I've been seeing a lot of videos with Dev, and of course they have handled each other with the information of what's going on with sports, also with baseball, basketball, also football and hockey, which right now is going to be the Stanley Cup between Tampa Bay Lightning versus Colorado Avalanche. And tell me about who you created this TikTok page. You made a lot of views, including the popular video, which is Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick, the ultimate face-off.
Honestly, these ideas kind of just come to me. I kind of just scroll through TikTok, to be for, I don't know how long. I kind of just really just sit there, I kind of just think about, what can I do with the sound, how can I do it? And then, once something just pops in my head, I kind of just go out and make it. So when it came to that Belichick and Brady video, it's something that I'd already done, months prior in January when when the Patriots opponents got finalized that they're going to play the NFC South. The Buccaneers are going to come to town, so I figured, make a small little thing of that. When the official schedule got released, when the date was set, when Brady was set to return, I had the Brady Bucks jersey, I had an updated Patriots jersey, I should say sweatshirt, and it kind of just hit me as like, I can do a whole lot better with this video that got me 7,500 likes back in January.
Mm-hmm.
Let me recreate it, but now better. I got the Brady jersey. I got, a better Patriots sweatshirt here. So I recreated it, and then next thing I know, that thing got 50,000 likes in like a day and a half or something like that. So really, these ideas kind of just really come to me. I do put a lot of thought though into the videos, and I want to, I try to make the best videos I can. I don't expect everyone to be a home run. I don't expect everyone to get everyone single one to get a million views or a million likes, even though that's the perfect world right there. But I'm happy with what I got. I just recently at 22,000 earlier, late last night, earlier this morning. So it's kind of just one of those things. TikTok's just a hobby. I kind of just want to go out there, just have some fun. People might question. It's like, oh, grown ass man. Being on a kid's app. It's like, yeah, you know what? Like, who cares? It's a hobby of mine. It helps me decompress. And I just throw my sports opinions out there, whether people agree with them or not. It is what it is. But no, TikTok's a fun app. It's a good hobby to have, and really, when it just comes to the videos, first thing I think of.
Yeah, because well, the first time that I came here for the TikTok app, I was looking Nick and Dev. I'm doing these sports information things, but it out with good humor. I thought that will be like amazing because uh, you, Nick, and Dev became one of my biggest inspirations to create TikToks with sports things. And the best thing apart of it because they just filled with good comments about negative comments, but those negative comments isn't going well. Just living out, just going out to the trash because it's a fun hobby. And when I posted TikTok, everything about sports, it became with good comments. It became with good followers. And I say, hey, I have an idea, so I'm gonna do it because I just thinking about my mind. And of course, when it comes to to do like a TikTok sports video, I can't follow breaking news or anything about the analysis. So it became like everything's gonna happen because right now as an actress and young graduated journalist, I get it because I'm gonna have to express myself. I'm gonna do with a lot of fun with this app right here on TikTok because it's just like a hobby. And when I create those videos with my ideas, it became perfectly. Some of the ideas I'm inspired for all the sports content creators and the sports TikTokers. Again, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna do with something else because I'm not gonna steal the another idea. So I'm gonna recreate and I'm gonna do all to influence anybody else. So it gains a lot of respect and love in each other. So it just became like a great hobby because right now we support each other. And as a sports TikTokers and sports content creators, we just support each other. And of course we just have different teams that we support it. And of course as a sport journalist, and I just I made it because I understand it because I just wrote some things. I just wrote anything about the baseball, the basketball, and also the football, which is amazing, which is a very good writer. I also had a very good analysis about what's going on with sports, and it became like a fun thing. And you, Nick, and Deb, because you became one of the biggest influence that earned me like much respect in doing like a TikTok videos. And I just wanted to say that anything can happen. And I just wanted to say thank you, Nick, for being here on this episode of Face to Face. And of course, I can't wait to see you next time to talk about the Patriots, the Red Sox, and everything about the sports scene. So, any final thoughts?
I know, man. Just thanks so much for having me. This is definitely fun. Definitely talking about some sports here. And as you said earlier, the NFL season is going to be fun. Hope it's a good wrap for the NHL playoffs. We just finished wrapping up the NBA finals, so it's good to be a sports fan right now. Yeah, all we got right now is about baseball at this point. But no, thanks for having me on, man. This is fun.
All right, so thank you very much. And of course, you can follow and subscribe on YouTube, which is Rafael Chacin. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as Capitán Rafucho, at Capitán Rafucho. Also, you can follow me, hit the like, share this video, and subscribe. Of course, there's my account on TikTok, which is Captain Guaro 93. Also, you can follow him on Sports Director Nick 44 on TikTok, which is his videos are amazing. So, this has been another episode of Face to Face right now with the one and only Nick LeBlanc. So I will see you next time. And of course, El Capitán Rafucho, as always said, farewell, my friends.